Hello friends, I am By A K Mishra. On behalf of A K Mishra classes, I will grand welcome to all of you in the knowledge of CA education in itself. Here we all have meeting with each other for discussing a concept called Michael Porter genetic strategy, that is the 5 forces model for competitive analysis. Before going on Michael Porter 5 forces model for competitive analysis, first of all, we have to understand what do you mean by competition. For understanding the word of competition or a term called competition, we can understand the meaning of competition by two ways. The first way by a logical way and the second way by the way called as a theoretical way. Theoretical way as a such way in which a word has to be derived from which mission or a significant purpose such a terms would be lies as such manner in such a significant case. For understanding the concept of competition by logically way, first of all we have to understand, as you love know my dear friends, every businessman has a single mission to become a number one in their own industry. That is not a mission of a single business enterprise, it is a mission of every business enterprise, as you love know my dear friends. Now we have to go on the second con things, that is, because of that a competition would arise because everyone wants to become a number one. That's why a concept of competition would arise. We have to provide such a unique facility to their customer so that customers come back with us, and we can provide such a facility to the customer so that every customer has wants to buy any product with me only. That is the mission of every business enterprise. That's why every business enterprise compete with each other, and they wants to provide a customer satisfaction more or more. Now Mr. Porter, Michael Porter has given there are certain bases on which we have to decide whether an industry has attractive or whether an industry has not an attractive of any industry has depends upon certain factors, as you love know my dear friends. For discussing the all factor, we have to go one by one each of them factors. The first factor is to be called as a bargaining power of a buyer. Bargaining power of a buyer is strong in any industry. There in such case a rivalry into that industry is weak, and if such a bargaining power is weak into any industry, there in such case a rivalry or a competition into that industry is strong. Bargaining power of a buyer play an important role for determination of a price of a good. If bargaining power of a buyer would be a more, there in such case a price for that a product would become low. There in such case a profit margin for such a producer or a new entrant who wants to enter into that industry becomes less. That's why a such an industry would become less attractive. And there if the bargaining power of such a buyer would become low, there in such case a profit margin for such a producer or a manufacturer become more. That's why a profit becomes more. There in such case every businessman has wants to enter into such an industry. That's why attractiveness of such an industry would becomes more. Now the second point is bargaining power of supplier. As we love know my dear friends, if bargaining power of a supplier is strong, there in such case a price of raw material would become more. If a price of raw material become more, there in such case cost of production automatically become has more also. If a cost of production become more, there in such case profit margin would become less, because as you love know, sales minus cost of production would becomes profit in simple terms, as you love know, my dear friends. That's why a profit margin becomes less, there in such case certain industry would become less attractive. That's why if into that any industry, if a supplier bargaining power has weak, then in such case a raw material price cannot be affected by a bargaining power of supplier. That's why a profit margin cannot be declined. That's why such an industry would become more attractive, because a profit margin into that industry would become stable, and every new entrant wants to enter into that industry. Now we have to go on the third point, that is to be called as a threat of new entrants. If in any industry a new rival can easily be entered, there in such case such an industry would become less attractive. And if in any industry in which a new rivalry cannot be easily entered into that industry, there in such case a certain industry would become as a monopolist, and any few of the firms can lead into that industry, and a few of members or firms who enter into that industry cannot easily enter a new rivalry into that industry. That's why a monopolist will be stable, and a profit margin for that producer would also become more, and they can also charge a premium price for that products. That's why such an industry would become more attractive, and such an industry in which a new rivalry can enter easily, there in such case such an industry would become less attractive because of a stiff competition or a more competition. Such an industry would become less attractive. Now we have to go on the fourth point, that is threat of substitute. If an industry in which a new rivalry has wants to enter, and such a new rival who wants to enter into that industry, and he wants to deal in such a product, and on such a product has available a substitute product into that a same industry or a different industry, that doesn't matter. If a substitute product has available into that industry or another industry, there in such case a customer has a option. If you charge a premium price for that product, then they cannot pay to you a premium price for that product, and they can substitute from one product to another product. That's become a threat for a new rivals and a certain interest for certain industry. That's why if a substitute product would be presence into that industry or another industry, there in such case attractiveness of such an industry would becomes less. If rivalry is more, there in such case a substitute product would cannot be presents a substitute product into that industry. Now the fifth or a last point is that a nature of a rivalry into that industry. As you love know, in this category there are so many points. If you we have to discuss mostly 2 points. If a perfectly represents into that industry, there in such case a profit margin or a stability functions